I saw the judge's courtroom light flicker across their amused faces as I spoke. Did they really think my voice was just decoration? I froze under the chandelier's glow when a sneering whisper slithered through the packed gallery. She can't even speak proper English. Then the translator stepped forward, cleared his throat, and read my secret manuscript in my own words. The room went silent. I'm still shivering at the memory, my hands trembling, throat dry, as the words I had labored over in private spilled into the air in flawless cadence. How had they underestimated me so completely? Then, in that stunned hush, I felt vindication pulse through my veins. But this is not just about embarrassment. It's about every person who's ever been dismissed, misheard, or belittled for how they sound. What happened next in that courtroom would change everything. Alliances forged in unexpected places, betrayal so cold that I nearly cracked, and a revelation that flipped the script on everyone who dared to question my voice. And now, I'm sitting here, heart pounding, to tell you exactly how I reclaimed my story. One trembling word at a time. What you're about to hear will leave you breathless. I remember the satin of my evening gown brushing against the polished marble floor as I walked into the Gala's grand hall. I couldn't believe I was here. My name is Sofia Hernández, an immigrant, a lawyer, a single mother, and tonight, a keynote speaker at the International Women's Leadership Gala. I grew up in a small coastal town in Mexico, the daughter of a fisherman and a seamstress, where the ocean's roar taught me resilience before I even understood the word. I built my life in 2 languages. By day, I argued cases in English before skeptical judges. By night, I coached my 9-year-old daughter, Elena, in Spanish lullabies that lulled us both to sleep. Every morning, I'd kiss her forehead, whispering, "Tú eres mi luz," and she'd beam, confident that my accent was part of our story. But would the world see it that way? When I received the Gala invitation, it felt surreal. I'd worked tirelessly, advocating for immigrant rights, drafting briefs in both English and Spanish, bridging worlds. My family, my sister, Mariana, my confidant and pragmatic rock, had urged me to accept. "They want to hear your truth, sis," she said, pressing the crisp envelope into my hand. My heart soared. This was more than a speech. This was my chance to speak up for thousands who felt voiceless. I rehearsed every day in front of Elena's bedroom mirror, testing the syllables of the translator's phrasings. Would my accent hold them back? I worked late into the night, fueling myself with black coffee and determination, my voice echoing off the walls until the words felt like part of my skin. On the morning of the Gala, I woke at dawn. I pressed my fingers to my throat, feeling the familiar flutter of nerves. In the kitchen, Elena handed me her drawing, a watercolor of me standing tall, microphone in hand, rays of light behind me. "Mama, show them your heart," she whispered, her brown eyes fierce with pride. I hugged her tight, tasting urgency and love on her breath. Mariana picked me up in her silver sedan, her stern expression softening when she saw my trembling smile. "You're ready," she said, squeezing my hand. We arrived at the historic courthouse-turned-event hall, its columns bathed in golden light. Inside, attendees in tuxedos and gowns chatted over champagne. I felt the pulse of expectations. Dignitaries, journalists, influencers, every eye waiting for my performance. This was my proving ground. Backstage, I slipped out of my heels, massaged my feet, trying to steady the quake in my legs. The translator, Mr. Patel, a reserved gentleman with impeccable English, nodded at me. "We're synchronized," he whispered. I forced a smile. "Trust him," I told myself. But deep down, I wondered if my accent would be the punchline to someone's joke once I began. And then, they called my name. The hush fell like a curtain. My pulse hammered. I straightened my shoulders and walked onto the stage. The spotlight warmed my skin. This is it. I inhaled, stepped up to the lectern, and felt every heartbeat echo in my ears. How could I have known that within minutes, that same confident entrance would be overshadowed by flippant mockery, setting the wheels of a battle in motion that none of us saw coming? I opened my mouth to speak, the microphone picking up every inflection of my voice. "Good evening, esteemed guests," I began. I felt poised until I felt the first chuckle. A group at the side exchanged looks, lips curling. I paused, throat tight. The translator murmured softly. Too softly, and the laughter grew. "I couldn't quite catch that," a voice called out. I cleared my throat. "I'm here tonight to share stories of women whose voices have been silenced," I continued. But someone mimicked my cadence, elongating my vowels in exaggerated parody. The room rippled with derision. My cheeks stung. Was I imagining it? I glanced at Mr. Patel. His face was unreadable. And then came the gaslight. After every sentence I spoke, the translator would shorten or mangle it, stripping nuance. "She says something about challenges," he'd summarize tersely. A wave of confusion rippled across the audience, as if my words didn't matter. I clenched. "The lectern. I work with families facing deportation," I insisted, voice trembling. The translator nodded, then delivered, "She helps illegal migrants." A snicker, distinct, sharp, cut through the air. My stomach knotted. No. I searched for ally, in my sister's face, but Mariana sat rigid, jaw clenched, avoiding my gaze. Between sections, the laughter grew more brazen. A critic in the front row tapped on his phone, live streaming my faltering speech, his commentary dripping with condescension. They're weaponizing my accent against me, my vision blurred as tears threatened. Backstage later, I confronted Mr. Patel. "Why are you changing my words?" His eyes darted. "I'm interpreting what you mean," he said curtly. I felt the first real crack of betrayal. Interpreter or enemy? My pulse raced. Mariana whisked me away, her tone sharp. "You can't trust him. He's undermining you." But I could barely hear her over the pounding of my heart. I came here to speak truth, not to fight in my own team's shadows. That night, I barely slept. I replayed every moment. The mocking tone of applause when I paused. The careful edits and translation that turned passion into parody. My anger simmered beneath the surface. If Mr. Patel controlled the narrative, I needed another way to make them listen. Then, the next morning, Elena asked me, "Mama, why did they laugh at you?" Her innocence cut deeper than any scorn. How do I explain that people sometimes fear what they don't understand? I held her close. Promising her I'd make it right, I reached out to the Gala organizers demanding a review of the translation recordings. They hesitated, afraid of scandal. But I refused to back down. If I let this slide, I let every marginalized voice be twisted. Word spread online. Clips of my speech, the skewed translation, the laughter. Comments poured in, some outraged, others mocking. The stakes rose. I was no longer just a speaker. I'd become a symbol of linguistic prejudice. In the courtroom's echoing hall, I found myself in a new arena. One war fought with recordings, transcripts, witness testimonies. I prepared to unmask the subtle control wielded by that translator's voice. I would ensure justice, not just for me, but for every person silenced by misinterpretation. I sat alone in a dim conference room, facing the Gala's review board. The translator's recordings lay on the table like loaded weapons. My blood pounded. I watched Mr. Patel slip in through the door, his calm demeanor like a shield. The board. President cleared her throat. "Ms. Hernández, we've heard both sides." I took a breath. "Listen to this clip," I said, pressing play. My own voice echoed. "Our communities deserve dignity." Then Mr. Patel's version. "They need help, I guess." A judge on the panel frowned, but another leaned back, arms crossed. "Will they believe me?" As the playback ended, a member muttered, "That's a difference." The words hit me like a blow. Is this legal nuance they're debating while I'm being discredited? I swallowed. My mind flashed to Elena's face, her question burning in my memory. I can't let her down. I pulled out annotated transcripts, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped them. "Look at the exact timestamps," I insisted, pointing. My sister at my side now whispered, "You've got this." But inside, I was unraveling. The board asked if I had proof of intent. Mr. Patel claimed honest error. Accents sometimes lost in translation. I felt the walls closing in. My throat burned with frustration. He's weaponizing nuance against me. Then my phone buzzed, a message from an anonymous whistleblower, something about a backup recorder. My heart leapt. "I have more," I announced. This could break everything wide open. But before I could play it, the president shook her head. "We need official channels." My protest died in my throat. I left the room, tears blurring my vision. Outside, the marble steps seemed endless. Is this fight even winnable? That night in my hotel room, I sat in the dark, head in hands. I felt hollow, defeated. My mind wandered to Elena's question again. Why did they laugh? How? Do I explain injustice to a child? I drafted an email to my mentor, pleading for help. Then came the breaking point. A news alert. A major outlet had picked up the clip, only the garbled translation, of course, labeling me the confused immigrant speaker. My phone blew up with cruel memes. I sobbed, hands shaking so fiercely I could barely type a response. I have failed. I stared at the ceiling, night dragging on. Will I lose custody of Elena if this drags on? Fear twisted in my gut. She needed me to be strong. My sister found me at dawn, wrapped me in her arms. "You're not alone," she whispered. Her faith became a lifeline. Fueled by desperation, I contacted a legal tech expert friend, Marcus. He specialized in audio forensics. "If there's a backup, I'll find it," he promised. For the first time in days, a spark of hope ignited. I could turn the tide. The crisis of that night defined the fight ahead, to reclaim not only my words, but my dignity and my child's faith in her. Mother. And then I realized I needed an unexpected ally, someone who had been present all along, watching every subtle shift. Someone whose testimony would shatter the illusion Mr. Patel built. I stepped into the crowded hearing room, clutching a flash drive. My heart thundered. The board sat in silence as I strode to the podium. This is it. I pressed play. The room filled with static, then my clear, unwavering voice, and then Mr. Patel's voice whispering to a staff member, "Don't worry, just follow my summary." Heads snapped up. They heard it. The whisper continued. The more I soften her words, the better they'll applaud. A gasp rippled through the gallery. Journalists snapped photos. My knees went weak. I held on to the lectern. Mariana was beside me now, tears in her eyes. They mocked her for being unclear, the whistleblower testified from the witness stand. Our stage manager, who'd secretly recorded the translator's instructions. But it was deliberate. She handed the board a Blu-ray disc of unedited audio. Then Marcus, the forensics expert, took the stand. He walked them through waveform analyses showing missing segments, pitch shifts, proof of tampering and omission. I watched as disbelief turned to outrage on the board members' faces. Justice felt close, A tense hush enveloped the courtroom. Then the president spoke, voice trembling. "Mr. Patel, you have been found to willfully misrepresent Ms. Hernandez's statements for applause." His face drained of color. I held my breath. And then the judge, the same judge from that night's, Gala, rose. "This body rules in favor of Ms. Hernandez. We revoke the translator's accreditation and extend a formal apology to Ms. Hernandez." A thunderous murmur erupted. Tears of relief stung my eyes as I realized it was over. But the climax wasn't just the verdict. It was the moment Mr. Patel, head bowed, approached me. I froze. He stammered, "I didn't realize the impact." I felt anger flare, ready to unleash it. But then I saw Elena's face in my mind, expectant, trusting. "I forgive you," I said, voice shaking. The courtroom silenced again. But know this, words have power, and those who twist them must be held accountable. The translator nodded, tears glistening. Mercy can be its own triumph. The crowd rose, applause rolling through the room like a wave. I stepped down, arms trembling as reporters swarmed. I had reclaimed my voice. I stood beneath the courthouse portico as the setting sun bathed the steps in gold. I felt unsteady, alive. Reporters clamored for quotes. "This is for every voice twisted by prejudice," I said into microphones, breathing deeply. Each word felt reclaimed. Mariana and Elena burst through the press barricade. My daughter threw her arms around me. "Mama, you did it!" she cried, voice bright. I hugged her, chest tight with emotion. She believed in me. That evening, we returned to our little apartment. The familiar squeak of the floorboards felt comforting. Elena tugged on my hand, leading me to her bedroom. On the wall hung her watercolor. Me, microphone in hand, light rays intact. She pointed. "See? They can't change this version." I sat beside her as she drifted off, stroking her hair. I'm her protector. I thought about the Gala's grand hall, now distant, suffused with echoes of laughter and scorn. In place of shame, I felt an almost sacred calm. The next morning, a statement from the Gala organizers appeared online. A public apology and pledge to improve translation oversight. They invited me back to speak. No edits, no distortions. I accepted. I would return to that stage as the true author of my own words. In the weeks that followed, invitations poured in. Panels on language justice, articles exploring accentism, documentaries highlighting my story. Each request felt like another testament to the power of authenticity. I had become a catalyst for change. Yet, in private, I remained the same woman who once doubted her accent. I still practiced speeches late at night, second-guessing every phrase. But now, I did it with a gentle resolve, not to please them, but to honor my truth. Mariana moved in with us for a while, helping with Elena's homework. Over dinner, Elena announced she wanted to learn French next. I smiled, realizing that accents are badges of identity, not barriers. In our home, every language was a thread weaving our story together. And then the email arrived, an offer to write a memoir. I stared at the subject line, "Your voice, your story." Could I do it? My hands trembled, again, but this time with excitement. I opened a blank document and typed my name on the first line. I've learned that truth doesn't need permission. I've learned that every accent carries a history, a heartbeat, a universe of stories waiting to be heard. I've learned that silence can be weaponized, but so can words when wielded with courage. I want you to remember this. When someone mocks the way you speak, they're not judging your words. They're afraid of your power. And power, my friends, lies in authenticity. If you've ever felt diminished by a sneer or silenced by someone else's narrative, stand up. Record your own voice. Share your story. Unfiltered, unedited, unapologetic. Because the moment you speak your truth, you reclaim your world. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below with a time you stood up for your voice, and subscribe to join our community of storytellers. Together, our words will echo far beyond any courtroom. And remember, your voice is more than sound. It's your story, waiting to break free.